I would actually touch that spider very gently and maybe not cry. Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I am reviewing a staple, I think it's becoming, of the sci-fi genre, and that is Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a 2015 hard sci-fi from Macmillan. I listened to this book on Audible, and the narrator is absolutely amazing. The only reason I'm going to read the other two on paperback is because I want physical copies because I absolutely loved this book. So I wasn't sure. Books that are overly hyped up, I tend to be hesitant of. I don't know why. Maybe I'm kind of a hipster in that regard. I like to read stuff that no one else reads. But this was on Audible, and I was like, all right, fine. It's so hyped up, I'll give it a chance. And wow, just wow, I understand why this book was so hyped. It's amazing. It's wonderful, brilliant. It's complex, but not convoluted. It has interesting characters, and most of all, it has a fascinating look at alien-ish evolution, both societal, technological, and physical. If you like hard sci-fi, do not wait. This book, in terms of being a gem, is a goddamn diamond. It's amazing. If you don't know, what is it about? A race for survival among the stars. Humanity's last survivors escaped Earth's ruins to find a new home, but when they find it, can their desperation overcome its dangers? Who will inherit this new Earth? The last remnants of the human race left a dying Earth, desperate to find a new home among the stars. Following in the footsteps of their ancestors, they discover the greatest treasure of the past, a world terraformed and prepared for human life. But all is not right in this new Eden. In the long years since the planet was abandoned, the work of its architects has borne disastrous fruit. The planet is not waiting for them, pristine and unoccupied. New masters have turned it from a refuge into mankind's worst nightmare. Now two civilizations are on a collision course, both testing the boundaries of what they will do to survive. As the fate of humanity hangs in the balance, who are the true heirs of this new Earth? Ooh. To start, this book made me sympathize with a spider. And not these weird human spiders, but an actual spider. One time I cried as an adult in a cave tour in Ireland because I saw a spider and I was terrified they were going to fall on me in the cave. And I couldn't even enjoy the cave. I was so upset. And another time in Puerto Rico, I went into a cave. I keep going in caves. And there were these bugs that were like spider-scorpion mix. And I also cried because I thought they were going to touch me. I don't like spiders, and it ruins trips for me. So for me to say that this book had me absolutely in love with the spider characters is the biggest compliment I can give it. Onwards from these nasty arthropods. The book does start with an info dump, which threw me off regarding people saying this book is so good, as info dumps are kind of the worst. But after that very brief and admittedly informative section, the book is kind of perfect. The plot is mesmerizing. It's so well constructed and well balanced in the parallels between the humans on the Gilgamesh and the spiders on the planet. You're never confused, and your engagement with both plots is the same, so neither section dragged. I wonder if he wrote it all spiders first and then the people, or if he did it like sequentially. I'm curious. The ship and the spider planet also function kind of like eras on Earth. And the tension throughout all these eras on the ship and the planet were excellent. The threats and challenges were varied but equally important, just like events in our world. For example, while the impacts of the world at large were different, the French Revolution is just as fascinating and interesting a time to study as World War I, the Roman Empire, the Cold War, the Siege of Malta, etc. This felt the same, and it also had a kind of a tinge of the Forever War in a way, a book that I'm always talking about, but it's an amazing book, and you guys should all read it. The characters are great. The humans are fun. Holston doesn't have a great deal of agency, as things generally just kind of happen around him, but this works to show his lack of control in the situation and his kind of like just accept stuff personality. I adored Lane. I want to be Lane. She was just a badass and she was so cool. I loved the arc with the Captain Gunyan, and especially how that arc was not the final showdown, as that would have been a bit boring given we've seen that type of storyline in sci-fi quite often. In fact, the journey that the humans take seems to reflect a lot of sci-fi tropes or common storylines in the genre, blending them together as almost a history of sci-fi. I loved that aspect. Every kind of new era, I was like, oh, this reminds me of this book, and this reminds me of this book. I also adored how Holston is a historian of Earth, studying past Earth culture within the timeline of the Earth's destruction. It has a bit of kind of like a forerunner technology trope, something I'm very fond of, as well as the concept of us having lost our knowledge and eking out an existence on the bones of the past. Fun fact, did you know that ancient Egypt lasted for so long, like 3,000 plus years, that they had their own archaeologists and historians of their own age? This reminded me of that really cool fact, and I found that really fascinating and very, very fun. I love when Earth has been like destroyed and we're kind of finding old technology or using old technology but don't really understand what it's about. There's this awful book called The Amazons of Somalon, which actually the only good thing about that book is that aspect, and this reminded me a bit of that but without all the other disgusting things in that book. As you know, if you watch my channel, I love xenoanthropology, and while they aren't exactly aliens, the spiders are alien enough to make me get all riled up about it. I can't deal with how cool it was to watch the spiders evolve. I am obsessed with it. I still am obsessed with it. The spiders themselves, Portia, Bianca, Viola, Fabian, all retain similar personalities in their different iterations, which makes sense given the knowledge sharing process they do that this would happen. So I love that that was, considered. So that was really cool. It made it feel like the same character despite them existing in vastly different time periods. So we kind of know how they would approach things in different situations. As I said, I've never loved a spider character, but Portia, oh my god, I love Portia. I would actually touch that spider very gently and maybe not cry. One of the things I loved about this book was the use of spider culture as a mirror to systemic sexism and classism in our own world. I do like when a matriarchy isn't just patriarchy flipped. I talked about that in my review of The Demon's Reign, so I'm not going to go into that here. But in this case, though it was that way, the way human misogyny, double standards, and lack of autonomy for women was addressed via the male spiders being treated as second-class expendable breeder citizens was fantastic. I adored that so much. There's a small romance in the novel that was so sweet and tragic. It gave the ship story a real sense of humanity, an emotional element that would have been lacking had this thread not continued throughout the story. It wasn't pivotal to the plot, only to the two characters involved, but that felt realistic. Unless you're Helen of Troy, often love stories don't impact the world at large, at least not directly. Not like Helen was anything but property, but that aside. The novel was also very, very smart, or at least focused on the details. The Gilgamesh is a great name, illusion-wise, for a generation ship, for example. I love things like that. Overall, if you like sci-fi and haven't read this, do it. You won't regret it. It has flavors of the Forever War, as I said, some Alan Dean Foster, and it's definitely a hard sci-fi with space opera elements. It is so goddamn good. P.S. If you have read this and like the spider stuff, check out Alan Dean Foster's Confederation books. Nora Crystal Tears is probably the one I would start with as it deals with insectoid aliens. And yes, I know spiders aren't insects. You know what they are, though? They're gross. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, definitely check out Children of Time. And I will definitely be reading the other two this year, I hope. Yeah, I'm going to make it a goal. Anyway, thanks for watching, and